Well, first of all, good morning, and thank you all for being here. My name is Jocelyn Nolly, and I humbly serve as the chair of the Black Political Caucus. I want to share out at the outset that I am under the weather this morning. So I thank you. I will be reading a prepared statement to ensure clarity and accuracy. Following my remarks, all questions should be directed to our attorney, Morris McAdoo of the McAdoo Law Firm, who will be present and address any legal or procedural questions. Today, the Black Political Caucus of Charlotte-Mecklenburg is joined by community members and organization members Shauna Bell, Douglas Jones, and Mr. Sean Legley. And we are moving forward with the filing of a temporary restraining order against the North Carolina Department of Transportation related to the proposed I-77 toll road expansion. This action has been formally authorized and endorsed by our organization following careful deliberation, consultation with legal counsel, and engagement with our membership. The purpose of this filing is to pause further action so that unresolved legal and community concerns can be fully reviewed before irreversible decisions are made. The Black Political Caucus has a long history in Charlotte and across this region of advocating for fair treatment, civil participation, and responsible public policy. For decades, our organization has worked to ensure that the Black communities are not an afterthought in decisions that shape our neighborhoods, our mobility, and our economic future. Central to that work is our commitment to endorsing, supporting, and helping elect candidates who share this vision and who are willing to stand with our communities when it matters most. The history of I-77 and its impact on Black neighborhoods in Charlotte is not theoretical. It is lived. Past transportation decisions have contributed to displacement, division of communities, and long-lasting economic consequences for Black residents. That history matters, and it informs why we are here today. Let me be very clear. This action is not in opposition to growth or infrastructure. It is a call for responsible decision-making that recognizes history, values transparency, and ensures that progress does not come at a disproportionate cost to communities that have already carried too much of the burden. The temporary restraining order is intended to create space for accountability, space for review, and space for the voices of affected communities to be heard. Again, all legal questions or details regarding the filing, please direct them to our attorney, Morris McAdoo of the McAdoo Law Firm. And at this time, I would like to introduce the chair of our Ad Hoc Transportation Committee, Mr. Rocky McGregor. Rocky has led this effort with diligence, focus, and tireless commitment, and much of the work that brought us to this moment is the result of his leadership. Please join me in thanking him as he comes forward.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Rocky McGregor. I have the honor of being the chair of the Transportation Committee by the Black Political for the Black Political Caucus of Charlotte. And I want to thank the membership for affording me the opportunity to lead yet a second transportation effort, the I-77 expansion. I want to first start off by saying that I am not a Charlottean, but I started coming to Charlotte when I was 17 years old. I fell in love with one of these ladies behind me, and her parents have her mother has a 100-year history in McCroy Heights, 100 years, going back to 1927, where my wife's mother, Cheryl Oliver, was the grandchild of Emory Lavelle Rand. And those that know the Rand family understand that Dr. Rand was the first African-American doctor that was accepted at what we know now as Atrium Health, CMC. I also want to state that the history of McCrory Heights is one that's dear to the Black Political Caucus. It is where educators, doctors, attorneys, and just good law-abiding citizens had a village. And for 3 times in the history of McCrory Heights that I'm aware of, there's been dissonance and disruption due to highway expansion. That happened when 77 came through. That happened when Brookshire Freeway came through, and now we're looking at the I-77 expansion. I also want to make it clear that the committee, the Transportation Committee, has been very diligent and focused on being at the table and taking advantage of the opportunities afforded by NCDOT. We and many of the individuals behind me have been to every one of the opportunities to speak with the North Carolina Department of Transportation. However, this has been more of a dictatorship rather than inclusion of our voices. Yes, we've had the opportunity to respond to surveys. Yes, after pushing tremendously hard, we got visibility into the different options that they were reviewing, but none of that included us having a voice of how we believe this should happen. As a result of that, we stand before you this morning now demanding that we get the opportunity to be included in this process. And we are believing that the steps that you'll hear from Attorney McAdoo will do just that for us. So I'm not going to delay this any further. I just want to say to those that are here, we are responding to the fact of not having our voices heard. And we will have our voices heard, and we will have it on the record, what has been done versus what has been verbally shared with us. Lastly, before I hand over to Attorney McAdoo, it is my honor to thank our Vice Chair and County Commissioner Lee Altman, who was out here. I want to just thank her for her steadfastness. I want to thank her for how she has guided us through this process. We as citizens don't know all of the steps necessary to engage. But when you have commissioners who take the time to advise and give you insight, that is what the office is for. And I just want to thank you on behalf of the VPC for doing that. Thank you. That being said, I'm going to hand off now to our attorney, Morris McAdoo.
Good morning. As you know, my name is Morris McAdoo. I'm attorney with McAdoo Law Group. I represent the individuals who was affected by this, and particularly BPC, which are members which were brought forward as plaintiffs in the particular case that we're filing today. What you will see in that complaint is that no one, and it mimics exactly what was said before by the BPC chair, as well as for the transportation chair, that no one is saying the expansion is illegal. What we're saying is there is a proper process that requires the Department of Transportation and all involved to go through that steps to make sure exactly those that are affected are done in an equitable way, in a right way, to make sure that they are respected, and to make sure that all alternatives are being addressed, and all that's sorted out in state and federal law. So again, it's the process. It's not the fact that there's anything wrong, or nor has anyone in this group or anyone who we represent has stated that they are trying to stop expansion. It's just it has to be done in a way to ensure that their individuals are not affected. What you'll also see is confirmations issued by the Department of Transportation saying that neighbors or individual homes will not be affected. We believe that you'll see would be either a misrepresentation or something that truly actually is not true when you see individuals who homes are affected in regards of soil sampling. You'll see exactly where they've had lines encroachment on their property lines, and other involvements of individuals who've had statements saying that your home will be in some form changed as a result of this. So again, has nothing to do in the complaint associated with stopping the expansion, but it's the process that's established in state and federal law that has to be done. That's the reason why individuals here standing behind me are here, is to make sure exactly that we follow the law. That's what we've been hired to do. That's my job for that. And so with that, if there's any questions, I'm here to kind of answer that from a legal standpoint. Yes?
So, sir, what exactly are you asking for, and how soon will this be filed?
This will be filed today. What we're asking for is to halt all process until a full review, which includes all alternatives, to make sure exactly what would that impact be. How we truly actually went through the process to determine exactly what is best for the city of Charlotte and for the community. That's what we're asking for.
Is that an independent review, or is that an NCDOT review?
That is an environmental review, which includes other parts that has to be done, which is founded in state and federal law. We believe that when we look at that, and again, a real review of alternatives. So as we go through this, we'll be able to see things that we don't know now. What was actually taken into consideration? What did they look at? What was the reason why those factors were not on the table? We don't know that. That's part of what the litigation is about.
Mr. McCroy, why did you personally want to get involved with this?
I'm very passionate. I think that just like everyone else, we've read what has happened. As I've gone through and tried to do my research and make sure I've listened, we've seen this happen before. Hopefully, as we do this, and again, I'm just one part of it. The groups of individuals that are behind me are doing it from different points. That's what democracy looks like, whether it be through legal advocacy, working with our legislatures, making sure exactly that everyone knows about the situation. It's just one of the things that I'm glad, and I guess I'm blessed for our firm to have it be a part of it, and make sure exactly we do right in regard of the laws associated with neighborhoods as historic that's been affected as this. Well, I can say this. If you listen to the clients and the affidavits that will be issued there, I do keep in mind there are individuals who were part of a community effort. They believe that that community effort was basically as you walk through. So what they discussed, what they wanted, the plans that they believe that that was already foregone. It was just going through the motion. So we believe exactly if in fact you're going to have community involvement, it means actually listening to people, going back, reviewing, and have substantive information and substantive, alternatives to make sure exactly what's best for all parties.
Did you talk to anyone with NCDOT, any of their legal team, to try to resolve this without
No, I have not, but that's what litigation is about. I am hoping someone of DOJ will contact us so we can, obviously cooler heads prevail. So I'm hoping that will happen, but no.
And when you say alternatives, what do you mean by that?
When I say alternatives,
Yeah, like you're saying an alternative method. What's the alternative? Like, what are you guys looking for?
well, so for example, if in fact there are other plans, what are those plans? So were there underground plans? Were there plans in regards of other routes that would not disrupt the neighborhoods? What are these? But regardless, it is their responsibility to review all of that and to make sure that there are alternative plans, not just take it or leave it.
When the DOT says that they're coming up with these designs to minimize impacts on communities, do you trust that? Do you believe that they're going in good faith when they're coming up with these plans?
That's what the litigation will reveal. If we see what that is, what that happens, if we see what those plans were, if we see what all the factors associated with what they chose to do in this situation, then we can come to that conclusion. At this particular point, from the information from our clients, it doesn't seem that way. It seems as if something was chosen and it wasn't a partnership in regards of what's the best for the community. All right. Nothing else? Anyone else? Oh, go ahead.
We're going to have Sean Langley, the president of McCroy Heights Community, come up.
Good morning. I stand before you today demanding a temporary restraining order against North Carolina Department of Transportation for this gross injustice. This proposed elevated toll lane makes it unmistakably clear that the state will intend to seize homes in McCrory Heights. Their own maps show it. This is not speculation. It is documented in their plans. NCDOT failed to provide proper public notice to the residents of McCrory Heights regarding the I-77 toll lane project. They also failed to notify residents that they or their subcontractors would encroach on private property and spray paint utility lines. That is unacceptable. That is not transparency. That is not due process. And there is a troubled history and precedent beyond this project. McCrory Heights has already borne the burden of state infrastructure projects before. I-77 and the Brookshire Freeway. Families were displaced. Homes were destroyed. The fabric of our community was permanently altered. If history is our guide, this would mark the third time this neighborhood has paid the price for decisions made without meaningful input. This pattern reflects more than oversight. It reflects systematic disregard. We have tried every appropriate and lawful avenue to be heard. We have exercised our rights as citizens. We have spoken before elected officials. We have submitted public comments. We have engaged directly with NCDOT. We have shown up. We have organized. We have participated in good faith. And still, we were met with silence followed by encroachment. Now, let me be clear about something else. This is not about McCrory Heights. We know what it feels like to have our community forever changed. Homes destroyed, neighbors forced to move, generational wealth erased. And we do not want another community, whether that's Wesley Heights, Wilmore, West Boulevard, Nations Ford, or any other community to experience that same unnecessary harm. Justice is not selective. And let me also address something directly. This is not whether we're talking about an ugly structure that trivializes what is at stake. This is about our quality of life. It's about placing a massive concrete structure adjacent to residential neighborhoods that will increase air pollution, increase noise, and further degrade the health and well-being of residents who have already lived with environmental consequences of prior highway constructions. Even if every home were left standing, which currently maps indicate is not guaranteed, it is not justice to surround a historic community with concrete and call it progress. It is not justice to increase asthma rates. It's not justice to amplify noise in a neighborhood where children are at play. It is not justice to diminish property values and call it infrastructure improvements. We're not asking for special treatment. We're asking for due process. We're asking for transparency. We're asking for meaningful engagement. We're asking for protection from further harm. Until those conditions are met, until it's true transparency, lawful notice, and a process that respects the people most impacted, this project must be paused. And that is why we're demanding a temporary restraining order. Not out of hostility, not out of obstruction, but out of necessity. Because when the state fails to listen, the courts must ensure it does. Thank you.
This concludes our portion of this press conference. I also just want to thank Shauna Bell, a member of the McCroy Heights community who unfortunately wasn't able to be here. She lives on Van Buren, which was going to be directly in the path where her home would have been impacted by this.